welcome to the show. It is Sunday, February 11th. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. What has happened to my hair in the last 5 minutes? Oh my goodness. Hey, everybody. Thank you for making it to our second episode back to Skeptic Generation. It has been a really busy week. I kind of want to get you up to speed before I dive into calls. I do have open lines right now, so if you want to call in, or if you are especially if you're a believer, you want to talk about what you believe and why, or if you just want to make sure this show doesn't go short, give us a call at here's the number: 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. I still don't have that link working, so call the number, please. That's 412-753-7436. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping to get started. First off, when I was talking about atheopagans, I said that Ocean Kelto is an atheopagan. He is not. I put a correction on the clip and all of that, but hey, I got that wrong. Regardless, I got to hang out with the guy years ago. He was really sweet, left a really great impression on me. So, cheers. Next, look, I don't want to share too much, but my partner had surgery. V had surgery this last week. Everything is okay. I've just been really tired. Just taking care of everything at home. So please be patient with me. I'm a little foggy brained today. The longest sleep I've had since Wednesday has been for 3 hours. So I'm just like doing my best to stay caffeinated and to get going. And I want to have these conversations. I live for this. This is something that I absolutely adore. So here I am, ready to go and ready to take calls. So it looks like we still have some open lines. So I'm going to talk a little bit. I would love to talk about, I have a huge announcement, you guys. So I was talking to a good friend of mine who does not do call-in shows. When we were doing SkepGen before, they were like, no, I'm not super interested. I just don't do call-in shows. Well, when I said that I was restarting SkepGen, he said, you know what, I'd be happy to come on as a guest. So next week, Genetically Modified Skeptic is going to be my co-host on Skeptic Generation. So make sure you tune in next week for Drew, Genetically Modified Skeptic, on here with me live. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be taking calls, and yeah, it's going to be good. 412-753-7436. Please save me from this, you guys. Okay, so I've got that. Let's see. What else? I can talk a little bit more about the show. Let me think. I did not get the chance to announce the caption contest winner. Just been way too busy this week, but I do want to kind of let you know what's going on. Just like before, if you are a patron of the show, you can get ad-free version of the podcast, an ad-free version of this recording, all color corrected with better audio, because that's all fixed. So you get that, but also you get some special content as well. One of the things that I do is I set up a 4K video camera, and I'll react to each section that the guests called in about so that I can make my thumbnails from it. That goes out to patrons just as a fun kind of, behind the scenes look. But also I take a screen grab of it and, whatever looks the silliest, and put it out on social media as a caption contest. And so I got something that looked really stupid of me out of context. I popped it up on social media, and I want to get the caption contest up and going. Did not get the chance to grab the winner. I apologize. I'll make sure that I do that next week. Okay. Let me see here. It looks like we have a call. Bree, please forgive me. I'm stealing the caller. Hello, caller. You're live.
Oh, Eric.
Hey.
Hello? Am I on here?
You are. Please don't be a troll, because I just stole you from our call screener. How's it going today?
Oh, I'm doing so good. How are you doing, Eric? Does it feel good to be back?
It
I miss
does.
your voice, man.
Oh, thank you. So I did not give Bree the chance to screen your call, so I do not have your name and info handy. Let me grab that right now. So
All right.
what's your name?
I'm Mitch.
Hi, Mitch. What are your pronouns?
He, him. You can just go by he, him.
Awesome. And where are you calling? Where are you calling from?
Florida.
Okay, let me pop that up. Mitch, what do you want to talk about today?
One word, skepticism. There's a whole bunch we can break down with that.
Yeah, hit me. What do you got?
I don't believe that skepticism, I feel like skepticism in and of itself is very self-contradictory. Skeptic ideas don't really fall in line with this kind of monarchy system that a civilist society basically in the 1920s ran on since the golden age, since we were, got cars to run on the road. We were living in the era where it was the Wild West. There were cowboys, goddamn it. We were riding on animals, man.
Hold on.
We're driving cars. How does that happen?
Mitch, I think you lost me a bit here. So when you talk about skepticism, I think about like the ancient Greeks, and I think about Socrates, and so that wasn't 1800s. And then after this kind of questioning, you have a development there later on. I think it was the 1800s of the nihilist philosophers. I'm sorry, I'm just still trying to catch up. No, actually, before that, well before that, you have Rene Descartes, who really kind of updated and solidified, skepticism in the way it's kind of viewed and treated, and he, gave us cogito ergo sum. What about skepticism is? What about riding animals?
Okay, I'm just saying, we live in an era where at one point we were riding animals. They were our property. They got us from point A to point B. We were riding them like they were not even a thing, But then in the next, life, 10 years, we have cars that can move, produce inflation into the air, suck up their resources, destroy the ecosystem. And we're saying that skepticism has nothing to do with that.
What do you mean that skepticism? What is skepticism to you? Do you think skepticism is industrialization?
Skepticism is the negative. It's the negative towards all the ideas that push towards any kind of supernatural developments. Anything discoverable that we know is discoverable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Got
it. So you're talking about pessimism.
I don't believe. What is that word? I've never heard that word, man.
Pessimism? Like being a pessimist?
No. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that word.
Yeah. So pessimism is that kind of assumption that something's going to go wrong, right? Or that negative view. When I was a Christian, I actually thought that skepticism and pessimism meant the same thing. This kind of negativity. But skepticism actually doesn't really have anything to do with negativity. I think we're coming at it from different definitions. So maybe we can clear it up a little bit and kind of operate on the same definition so we can have a meaningful conversation. How about can we start there, Mitch?
Yes, I think we were already having a pretty decent conversation. I mean,
so I think that you were diving in further than I understood, and I found myself kind of out of my depth, not knowing how we got there, and so I'm trying to pump the brakes so that we can start somewhere together.
Right, that makes sense.
Okay. So to me, when I think of skepticism, you know how like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old will, why, why is it this way? Why is that? And you just kind of keep asking that why, and it gets annoying, and eventually you get that parent that goes, just because, right? Or I don't know, or because I said so. That is more like skepticism to me. Right? It's constantly kind of getting to, well, why is it this way? Well, why is it that way? And kind of at the root of it, I'm going to go back to Socrates. Socrates was questioning why the government at the time was doing things the way they did. The fact is, there were a lot of things that were being done just because it was traditional to do so, not because it was the best way of doing it. Right, and he pissed off a lot of people that way because he caused, people to, well, then let's change things. Well, governments don't like to be changed that way, and eventually he was put to death. And so with that understanding of skepticism, would you say that skepticism is ruining things, or do you think we should use a different word?
Different word. I feel like it should be, the word is very confusing and it misleads.
Oh,
very misleading.
I get that. When I was a Christian, and I keep saying when I was a Christian because I want to contextualize my understanding, is skepticism was used for what I now say pessimism is. So I'm just pulling up the fastest definition of pessimism online. Let me read you this. Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
A tendency to see the worst aspect of things or believe that the worst will happen. A lack of hope or confidence in the future. That's pessimism. Does that sound more like what you were thinking about?
Yes.
Pretty
spot on, yeah.
I kind of agree with you. So I think that I've seen some really interesting kind of defenses of pessimism, things that have, people using pessimism to prevent catastrophic failure because people didn't just assume, you think about like the Challenger spacecraft exploding, and I think a pessimist nowadays would go, well, we might avoid that if we were all pessimists. But personally, I'm not a pessimist. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of pushback from me on that.
Okay, well, what about males shaving down there, their genital areas?
Mitch, are you a troll? I'm trying, buddy. But
no, I'm sorry. Oh, no. I crack. We're good.
No.
We'll get on the conversation. It happens every now and then. I'm sorry, guys.
Mitch, my friend, I appreciate that you called, and I because like
Eric,
I didn't have callers.
Eric,
Don't do it. Don't do it, Mitch.
Eric,
be better. Be better than that.
Eric, please.
You can do this. Don't stick with me. Stick with me.
I'm still here, Eric. I'm with you, Eric.
Okay, give me something you want to talk about that's not a troll thing. Come on, you can do this. I'm right here.
I will. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Don't allow V and Eric to rape kids. Don't allow V and Eric to...
Oh, Mitch. I'm so disappointed in you. I thought maybe since last time you grew up a bit. But it's sad. I feel kind of sorry for you. It sounded like you actually had something you wanted to talk about. But instead of kind of diving in, you know what it is, Mitch? It's an uncomfortable feeling when you find yourself in a place where you don't understand necessarily what's going on, or you've questioned your worldview to the point that you don't know where to go next. I talked about it last week, right? This feeling of anomie, when it comes to morality, or I've lost the word. I'm sure I'll come up with it soon. But yeah, I get it. But the better thing to do is to sit in that uncomfortableness, because that's what's going to cause you to grow as a person. Instead of doing that, I'm disappointed that years later you're still doing that kind of immature thing. But hey, you know what? Can't win them all, right? Bye, Mitch. All right. So for people who are in the comments wondering about the tiny.cc link, it looks like someone stole it while we were gone, and I'm trying to get it fixed. But in the meantime, if you want to call 412-SKEPTIC, that's 412-753-7436. That would be deeply appreciated. I think Mitch called in a few times last season when V and I were going on, and I think it was the exact same thing. I have to wonder if these kinds of assumptions are just because we're atheists, because we're into philosophy, or if there's something else, if it's kind of tied into like a conspiracy mindset. If anybody has an idea, give me a call, because I'd love to talk about it, or really anything else. If not, this is going to be a very short episode. Okay, so let me check the comments, see how we're going here. No, things look like they're going slow. And if we don't have any callers, then I'm going to set the timer, and I don't have my watch on. and I'm probably going to wind up ending things pretty quick. I can only do a call-in show so long as there are callers. That said, I will fill the time. So, before I came back, I did want to start a. Here, let me just pull it up. I did want to start something different. I wanted to create scripted content because all my friends did it. I wanted to try it too instead of just doing the call-in thing. Maybe I could talk about specific concepts just straight up. And so I did a test. It was the paradox of tolerance. And the question there is, I've completely lost it. Oh man, this is not great TV, you guys. Let me see if we have any other callers. We do not. I think I might wrap it up. Let me see here. Hey, Bree, you there?
Yes, I am.
Hey, everybody. This is Bree, our call screener for the day. How's it going, Bree?
Oh, pretty good. Got
Good.
coffee.
Bree, thank you so much for coming in after everything and just getting call screened for me. I sincerely appreciate it. And I should have let you screen Mitch, but honestly, I think that was kind of fun.
That's true. Oh, and of course, now we've got some calls coming in.
Oh, crap. Then I better pop you back. Thank you, Bree. All right. So while Bree screens those calls, let me fill a little bit more time. Let's see. While Bree grabs them, I'm just going to grab the other person. Why not? Hello.
Hello.
Hi. This is Eric. You're live. I just grabbed you right out of the call room.
Okay.
Who am I talking to?
You're talking to Amanuel.
Thank you for spelling that. There's no way I would have got that. Emmanuel?
Yeah.
How you doing, Emmanuel? What pronouns should I put down for you?
He, his.
All right. And where are you calling from, Emmanuel?
South Austin.
South where?
Austin.
Oh, Texas?
Yeah.
Nice. I just left Austin, actually, this year. Moved out to Portland.
You're in Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, what did you want to talk about, Emmanuel?
Just here to defend theism, and just try to say that theism is more consistent with it makes more sense than atheism, and try to say that atheism seems to be a little bit inconsistent with what we observe. That's what I was trying to say.
That is a really awesome conversation. Okay, so you're the one who called in. I think that you should have the right to provide the point. So what exactly about it do you think is inconsistent, or how do you want to set up this conversation?
Okay, first of all, I want to apologize for the audience because I've been banned from different shows, from atheistic shows that you actually used to go, and
Oh yeah?
I don't want you to lose viewers if I take up a lot of time. But in short, what I'm trying to say is, we have an observable world, right? So we observe nature, we observe,
Sure.
reality, our reality, the bubble that we actually live in. So if I take up on the worldview of skepticism or agnosticism, I know that those two are two different things. Let's say I take upon that worldview and say that the observable doesn't have unobserved factor, so there is no metaphysical thing behind it. That would
can I offer
a little bit of.
Can I?
I'm sorry?
That's okay. I just want to get on the same definitions with you here. So I think that, and I promise this isn't me trying to be like really pedantic, but I think it's important, especially for people who are watching, who are following and trying to kind of develop their philosophy a bit. I don't know. I don't know what the skeptical worldview is. You know, people say that colloquially, but it sounds like you're talking about methodological naturalism, right? Everything that exists in the natural world without any kind of supernatural causation. Would that
Yeah, like empiricism kind of
empiric?
stuff.
Yep, empiricism. Because when you talk about things like agnosticism, right, that just has to do with someone's view about religion, and an entire worldview is not made out of just that kind of one statement, right? And skepticism, I think, is just a tool that everybody should be able to use, right? Christian, Muslim, atheist, whatever. I think we should all kind of question the grounding under everything that we believe. But if you're just so that I'm kind of right there with you, it sounds like you have a bone to pick with methodological naturalism. So I'm here for it. So I interrupted you. You were saying you were describing it as the world existing without any metaphysical what?
Like if we say that like nature, the nature's cause is nature itself, or the observable world came from what we observe by itself, it seems to be inconsistent, because like which one makes more logical sense, saying that this world that we observe came from a supernatural force, or would you say that it's more logical to say that a natural world came by nature itself? So I would say that that's why I think religious or theistic view makes more sense, because it creates an explanation that what we actually see came from what the unseen is. So everything that we observe came from a supernatural source that we can't actually observe, we can't taste, we can't touch, we can't kind of like sense with our five senses. You get what I'm saying, right?
I do, and I kind of want to push back in a couple different places. Okay, so first off, I think that there are lots of things that exist, quote unquote, that you can't test with your five senses. When you're talking about metaphysics, I think that there are a lot of concepts that exist, like friendship, kindness, right? One of my favorite books is by Douglas Adams, and it's The Hogfather. And in it, this character of death says, if you take the entire universe and you grind it up into the finest powder and sift it with the finest sieve, show me one atom of justice. But we talk about justice as though it exists, right? So
Yeah.
I think that those things exist, but they exist as concepts. And I don't think concepts need to be supernatural, right? They are ideas that we propagate and share with each other, and it aids in our communication. And in that way, it's a really useful tool. And so to start off with, right, taking concepts, I'm putting that down there. Now, I'm going to pick up something else unless you want to respond to that.
No, I have nothing to say to that.
Cool. Okay. So moving on to the kind of the bigger, meatier issue here, and that is explanatory value, right? An explanation feels way better than not an explanation. It really does, always. And it would be really amazing if we did have explanations for things that we don't have explanations for, right? We weren't there when the universe began, or at least, our version of the universe had some kind of inception, whether or not there was anything before it. We don't know. I don't know. You don't know. None of us do. We're kind of in this place. And so when we're talking about, proposing causation, well, what causes things? I know that when I touch something or move something, it gets caused, right? And I'm physical, right? I exist. I know that concepts can't directly interact with things. So we can talk about justice, but justice itself as a concept can't actually like act on its own. And so if I think about the supernatural, how many examples do I have of the supernatural causing anything? Right? Like, what if we discovered magic tomorrow and all it could do is make you Pop-Tarts? You know, that's not enough power to create a universe. Right? So what I don't understand is this kind of assumption that magic or the supernatural could create a universe has any real substance to it. And because of that, I can't give a determination about whether or not it possibly did. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. But wouldn't you say that even if theistic worldview have different sects or set of beliefs,
Oh yeah.
wouldn't you say that they are all similar in a kind of way that they repeat the same model of saying that a specific creator created those things and how the universe came to existence?
Oh, hold on a second. Had to take a drink of caffeine because I'm a little sleep deprived. Well, not really. I think the big faiths that we have kind of spawn off of the same tree, right? The Abrahamic faiths, right? So you've got all the different brands of Christianity, Judaism, and the Muslim faith. And they all kind of spawn from this Old Testament, story that happened in the Middle East, right? And I think that due to imperialism and different countries spreading out and forcing their religion on everyone, that's kind of the environment we find ourselves in. But they're not all the same. In fact, listening to different creation myths, quote unquote, a lot of them have to do with animals or, some other story. But I think that's because we as humans are storytellers. I don't think that there's necessarily a through line there that you can point to as evidence.
So you're saying that there is no evidence for those stories. Those are just stories that we can actually prove or disprove necessarily.
Some of them can be disproved. Right?
Some of them, right? So, but you can't actually disprove the premise of saying that there is a creator who created all things, right? So if you can't disprove that claim, how could you find yourself in an atheistic position? Because in an atheistic position, there is no deity according to that worldview.
Got it. Okay. Really quick, just as like a little aside, I think the atheist position has to do with the religious aspect. I don't necessarily view it as like a worldview that I take into the rest of my life. But let's go from there. So I define atheism as the rejection of assertions that a God exists. Right? So every version of a God that has been presented to me so far, I've rejected. Unless you're somebody who says like, the God is like the universe or whatever, but all supernatural deities that I've interacted with when it comes to like people talking to me, I reject all of those. And I think that agnosticism is the idea that it cannot possibly be known. But I think that I'm doing the work of somebody who is an atheist, and that is I'm interacting with everyone that I can and finding out what their definition of God is and finding out whether or not that definition checks out. I'm searching.
So you might find yourself in a theistic position as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're open to both of the spectrum.
Of course. I think everybody should be. I think that if you're not willing to have a conversation with an open mind, then you're just listening to yourself talk. That's not cool. Right? Like, I think we should all be generally good interlocutors and truly listening to each other. Yeah. What about you? Are you a Christian?
I believe in Lord Jesus.
Okay, so usually those people call themselves Christians, but whatever you want to define it as, that's fine.
Yes, I'm a Calvinistic Christian.
Okay, cool. Are you open to possibly being wrong? Do you listen with an open mind the same way that I do? Or do you just call in to hear yourself talk?
I'm sorry if you feel that I just called it to hear myself talk,
No, no, no.
but
I'm
that's my
asking you,
intention.
like you asked me, and so I gave you my definition of, how I interact, and I want to give you the same opportunity. I'm not taking that as like offensive. I'm just, could you be wrong? Do you listen with an open mind or not?
Yeah, I've been wrong too many times. Like I used to believe in eternal hell, for example.
Okay.
I don't believe that anymore. I used to believe in the infallibility of scripture. I don't believe in that anymore. I used to believe in the virgin birth. I don't believe in that anymore. Like there are a lot of
Wow.
things that I do not believe where I used to believe when I used to be a different sect of Christianity. So, of course, I have to open myself and say that there might be things that I might be wrong. And when I find out that I'm creating errors,
Yeah.
I have to update my
Emmanuel.
position.
Emmanuel, my friend. No, that is not an of course. That is a big position. That is something that should be commended. Like, rock on. And don't say I was wrong too many times, because you're going to be wrong about a lot of things for the rest of your life. It's not about being right the first time, and being
Yeah.
stubborn about it. It's about having the humility to go, oh, I was wrong about that, and getting better and growing from it. That's what's beautiful. Ameet, you're doing great. Emmanuel, you're doing great. Okay, so, yeah, I just think that the supernatural doesn't have really any explanatory value. It just feels good. I would love for that to be the case. I would love to not blink out of existence when I die, but me hoping that I don't blink out of existence when I die doesn't. It's not evidence of something else. It's a argument propped up by hope, and that doesn't have any value to me.
Okay. I mean, that's a good explanation. Um, I I kind of like have to start a shift. So,
Hey,
um,
I
I almost
truly appreciate you calling in. Like, number one, since you've called in, I've got 5 more callers. You have saved me from ending the show early, and I absolutely love this conversation. So, Emmanuel, you are not banned from this show. Um,
all right.
you are welcome to call back anytime.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Hey, thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, you guys, why was Emmanuel bound on other shows? I'm so curious. I need to know, but I don't want to watch other. I don't know. Unless Emmanuel was like a real jerk before, I don't know how listening with a level head would cause somebody to want to ban them. We'll find out. Maybe Emmanuel calls in with the same thing every time. We'll see. But moving forward, I have not spoken to Ameet in over a year. Ameet, you're live. Hey.
Hi, Eric. How's everything?
Good. I'm so glad to hear your voice. How's it going?
It's going well. I don't know if you know this, but about a year or so ago, I made an effort to step away from, well, not step away, but to take a step back from the American atheist movement
Good
and
for
to plug
you.
myself a little bit more into the Indian atheist movement, just to see what's happening on the other side of the world. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk to you about.
I'm so here for it. Yeah, hit me. So,
Yeah,
like,
so it's a bit of a different topic from what you're used to hearing about, but some of the basics are the same. I
okay.
will start by acknowledging my privilege in that I grew up in an English-speaking family. My first language was English. I was exposed to, all of the different religions in India, and then I moved here where I became an atheist.
Okay.
Right? So there is a little bit of a, and I'm from an ex-Christian background, right?
Okay.
So from a Christian background. And I decided I wanted to plug myself back into like the Indian atheist community just to see, how is it different? How is religion affecting places there? And as you might imagine, being a country where Christianity is not the major religion, you end up seeing a lot of oppression of minority religions there, right? It's sort of like being, say, an ex-Muslim in the United States, right? You end up being a minority within a minority in the country, right?
Right.
And you see how the majority religion, once again, is influencing society in very many of the same ways. And I'm struggling with my ability to give back there simply because of my privileged background.
What do you mean?
I don't know if it's right for me to speak on certain topics, like, say, for example, the caste system, which I hear a lot of Hindus speaking about, ex-Hindus speaking about. But being an ex-Christian, I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm wondering what your thoughts on something like that would be.
Oh my gosh, Ameet, that is such a good question. So, I'm sure you know, I'm biracial, half white, half Mexican. And I have spent most of my life around white people. Just with the way my parents had divorced and all of that, I just did not get the same kind of like Mexican childhood that a lot of people that I know who are Mexican and even half Mexican have had. And because of that, it took me a really, really long time to speak up, even just about my heritage, because I was afraid that I was misleading people. Because culturally, my understanding was not the same kind of cultural understanding as other people, right? Who had those backgrounds. And so I was actually, once I was already doing atheist work, I talked to Dr. Hector Garcia. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's an atheist author, sociologist, really cool dude, and is Mexican. And he said, Eric, how did he say it? He said that my experience, whatever it is a Mexican experience because I am Mexican. Right? And because of that, in the same way that, people view gender as well, like there's not a uniform gender experience. And because of that, whatever gender you are, that is what that experience is because you are that. And so that's kind of my take on that. Now, when it comes to your observations, it could be that you have a unique view because you're from the outside. So as long as you're comfortable talking about it from your standpoint and understanding what your views are and how you came to them, I don't think it's wrong for you to talk about it that way. But if it comes to like needing to represent a view that isn't your own and you're afraid that you're not going to do it justice, I would understand not wanting to talk about it too much.
Yep. No, completely agree. And it's interesting kind of looking at India, because just like any place, right? There are, there is a portion of the Hindu religious community that is anti-queer rights, and a portion that is pro-queer rights, right? LGBTQ plus rights. And as an ex-Christian, my community tends to be, like at least the Christian community, my background, my family, tends to be more on the anti side. And when I bring up those, when I try to speak about those things and try to, advocate for treating people equally, I'm often met with both sides of the discussion, which is, India has always been very fluid with gender and sexuality, as well as, no, we are traditionally two genders and straight. And I feel like I can only speak for my minority community
Yeah.
and push back against that. And I feel like I'm not in a position to criticize that element of the majority that is anti-LGBTQ plus rights.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to split that a little bit, right? First is the context here, and that is that India's fucking huge and is only that way currently because of imperialism and you know, the just awful way that India was treated. You have such a huge group of different peoples that any single like description that would label it just doesn't make any sense. So right off the bat, I think that making like a sweeping judgment about all Indian people and whatever it is, people are just way too diverse. So that doesn't make any sense. That said, you still can criticize, right? Like, if you think that something is wrong and you have a valid or nuanced opinion that you want to talk about, you should be able to. I think that's just fine. And the other side of it is that, are you also talking about like ex-Hindu non-believers who are anti-LGBT? Was that?
Yeah, there are both. There are both.
So, in my experience on the Christian side, and as an ex-Christian, I'm sure you understand as well, leaving your religion does not mean that you have left all of the other worldviews that you had. And there are a lot of atheists that I've met who are still just as dyed-in-the-wool Christian on everything else except for the God, statement as they were when they were believers. From their politics to their views on sex, on how to raise children, on the role of government, on everything from eating meat to GMOs to all of it. Like, every single one of those things needs to be deconstructed one at a time. You need to take a look at every one of those things. And so it seems like, that would totally make sense to me that, people who have left their religion would still have really, kind of religious influenced views. I don't think that's necessarily a Christian or an ex-Christian or an ex-Hindu thing. I think that's just a people thing.
Human thing, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe contextualize it like that. Yeah,
true. That does make sense.
Now, if you really, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was going to say, if you really want to piss off a non-believer, tell them that their religious views are showing. That is the best way to end a conversation. Tried it, does not work. Learn from my mistake. Ameet, do not do that. It's just people needing to get through indoctrination. And even then, people can have justified views, and that's why we have these conversations. But I don't know. I feel like you may have been scared off of having conversations because it may have been disrespectful, or you felt like you did not have a place.
No.
But good, because you should be able to have those conversations as long as everyone involved wants to.
Yep. All right. And just for context, a way this like the Indian atheist space does affect me is you see a lot of the ways religion is tied up in, the government. We don't have Christian nationalism in India. We have Hindu nationalism, right? Which is strange to say for people to hear, but I actually got engaged recently.
Hey, congratulations!
Thank you. To a person from a Hindu family.
Okay.
She doesn't believe. She's not religious, but she doesn't like claiming a label one way or the other.
Okay.
I like, in effect, both of us are atheists. However, because of the way the Indian government's is like set up and the laws are set up, we are technically, I am still technically classified as Christian, and she is still technically classified as Hindu. And our marriage is going to be an interfaith marriage, which has like 3 times the amount of paperwork required
No!
to actually fuss. Yeah.
Oh no! That sucks.
Yeah, it's wild.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Ameet,
Oh.
I wish you the absolute best and all of the happiness in the world. And I would love to hear updates. But thank you for calling in and truly congratulations.
Thank you so much, Eric. It was great speaking to you. It's great to hear your voice on the air again.
It's great talking to you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. What a sweetheart. Then and now. Ameet, good people. All right, let's move on. So normally I go by topic, but I'm also paying by the minute. So I'm gonna grab our Canadian caller next. I have Tug in Vancouver. Tug, you are live on Skeptic Generation. How's it going?
Hi. I was wondering about, like I used to watch a lot of call-in shows, and
Me too.
and a lot of times I find that the conversations are not, I don't know, as engaging. Well, when I watch you, I actually model a lot of my conversations around how you kind of handle them.
Yay!
Which is, I think, very understanding, and I think you listen first and respond after, which is very different than some individuals. I was wondering, kind of, do you have like a sort of list of rules, or like how do you approach it to be as ethical and productive as possible?
Got it. Okay, so I can think of a couple off the top of my head. So the first big rule that I would have is something that I said with the last caller, Ameet, and that is all of these conversations need to be consensual. Both parties need to consent to having and being involved in that conversation. There are too many people who've reached out to me going, hey, I tried having this conversation with my family during the holidays and it was awful and nothing worked. And it turns out that they were forcing the conversation on family members that just wanted to eat their meal, you know?
Yeah.
So make sure that everybody involved wants to be there. Number 2, operate with charity, right? Charitable listening is really important. Even if somebody says something off the wall, being charitable means giving them the best interpretation possible that you can think of. Oh, I'm getting a little bit of wind. Not sure what that sound is.
Oh, I'm sorry. My mic is awful. Here, I'll move it away.
No worries. I appreciate it. I have ADHD, so I'm just like trying to concentrate. Okay, so the principle of charitable listening is give people the best interpretation possible. If someone says something, give them as much leeway as you can, right? Let them live up to your best expectations or your best hopes of them. Don't just brand them as the worst you can think of. Number 1, you're going to find that more often than not, even with our troll caller earlier, right? They had pessimism and atheism, or pessimism and skepticism mixed up. Those definitions were wrong. And often it's things like that that get in the way of meaningful conversation. So listening charitably is going to get you way, way further. Next, it's not all going to happen at once. When it comes to people changing their mind about things, they need to re-interact with it over and over again from different places, maybe, you know, with a good, better meal in their stomach or a little bit more sleep. Maybe they thought about a counterpoint and all of a sudden everything's kind of undone and they're coming back at it from square one. Ongoing conversations that may seem repetitive are really, really useful in changing people's minds in the long run for good reasons, which is why I've always tried to have ongoing conversations with callers, because over time, I think I've seen more lasting change. And then,
Right.
Yeah. And then, what else? Model the behavior that you want to see. If you're wrong about something, admit it. And honestly, be as positive about it as possible, because if you can show that it's okay to admit you're wrong, it gives them permission to be wrong about things too. People are more likely to want to reciprocate positive behavior that they see and interact with. And so if you are showing them that, they might be more willing to grant that as well. There's room to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. Those are the big ones that come to mind. I think last is, if you get flustered or if you find yourself out of your depth, use that as an opportunity. You can actually make that a bonding experience with that person. What you can say is, I have no idea about that. How about we both look it up and we come back together later and talk about it? Oh, I didn't know that. How about we, take some time and I look into that, and the next time we have a conversation, I can have a more understanding kind of talk with you, because I will have looked into whatever it is that you said, or you have time to look into whatever it is that I said.
Right.
I think all of those things will really help, and also walking away when it's time to walk away. When you're done, or you feel like, hey, you're out of spoons, you can hurt the conversation that you had. You can go backwards by burning out. So when it's time to stop, it's time to stop. And I think if you do those things, and if I had my head together enough, I would have numbered them for you. I'll try and do that in post when I post the clip. But hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Just last question. This is all I have, which is, how did you get here to the place that you're at, conversation-wise?
By screwing up a lot.
That's very fair.
So do you mean just in the way I have conversations, or do you mean like doing shows like this?
In the way that you have conversations. Because like I said, I see a lot of people in the same position as you that aren't as charitable, what's the word? Aren't as charitable, aren't as let's say, productive.
Oh my gosh. If you go back and watch some of my early stuff, I was a prick. I mean, I'm still kind of a prick. I'm working on it,
Yeah.
But I was awful. I think one of the only times I was ever on the Atheist Experience, I was just foaming at the mouth. It took time. It took a little bit of patience and compassion. And honestly, it took me looking back at those conversations and going, that's not the conversation I want to have, to move forward. So again, make mistakes. It's okay. You'll grow from it in the long run. I am not any different.
Right. Thank you very much. That was really insightful. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for calling. I really, really appreciate it. This episode was light on callers, and I really needed that. This was good. This was really good. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye.
I like it. I like it. That was nice. I'll try and see if I can number those for the clip. Okay. Somebody, Isaac, I can't believe it. I love that so much. So Isaac is calling in about the paradox of tolerance. Isaac, you're live on Skeptic Generation.
Hi, Eric.
Hey!
How's it going?
Honestly, I am doing my best. Like in the last week, the longest amount of sleep that I've had has been 3 hours.
That's rough. That's real rough.
I am like holding on, and there is no way that I'm not doing the show. So I am just like doing my absolute best. And you wanted to call in about the paradox of tolerance, which I love. So,
yeah.
What do you want to talk?
I watched that. Yeah, I watched that Patreon video that you made, and I don't fully remember exactly all the points you made because it's been a while. But I was curious on how much of a paradox you actually think it is, or do you think once you start adding the nuance of human experience, it really kind of dissolves away? Like, my perspective on it is if you're intolerant of someone else's intolerance, I think once you add in the concept of like a social contract or just societal expectations in general, it's perfectly fine to call out the people who are being, intolerant or bigoted or whatever. Does it seem to disappear that quickly for you, or does it still remain a paradox for you?
Yeah. So let me set it up a little bit for people who are watching that didn't watch that video.
Mm-hmm.
So in a nutshell, I'm probably going to butcher this, but the paradox of tolerance basically states that a tolerant society needs some level of intolerance, because and I'll bring that back a bit. So let's say you want to create a tolerant place. So you build up this environment, but if you bring in intolerant views, they're going to push down other people and make it a less tolerant place. So the best way to have a tolerant world is to not tolerate intolerance. I said that word so many times I probably lost all meaning. but that's it. Is intolerance of intolerance is the only way to preserve it. And that kind of is the paradox there. And so when you're talking about like social contracts and all of that, I absolutely agree. I understand, but I think those are justifications for, why it's okay to not tolerate intolerance. And while I agree, I think that's still what it is. It's a justification. Now, when I brought this up to V had a very different view.
Did they share their view or no?
I don't mind talking about it.
Share their view, or is it?
Yeah. They looked at me and they said, Eric, why do you want to tolerate people? Is that the world that we want, where we tolerate each other? It's like, well, what do you mean?
Probably not a good word.
No. But at the same time, it is true that we cultivate communities around shared experiences. We cultivate our friendships and the people that we count on, the people around us, based on things that we have in common. And it's okay to not tolerate shittiness in the communities that we're cultivating for ourselves. And in that way, at least from what V had told me, they're just like, maybe we shouldn't try to be the most tolerant. Maybe we should just cultivate those communities that are best for us. And I kind of vacillate on it. I go back and forth, because while I agree, it also does not resolve the kind of questions about what we should do in bigger terms about society, and how a better world is going to be shaped. It just seems, in a way, to be kind of a red herring, but at the same time, it was important enough that it really left a mark on me, and I remembered it.
Yeah. I'm curious. Yeah, the cultivating communities idea is great, and it treats people with the respect they deserve in their communities, but it doesn't really grow to like national level.
Right.
It's hard to counter the national level of intolerance. So it's kind of an isolationist, which is isolationist in a good way, because you get a positive community. Now, I don't know how you count. You probably just have to start getting more and more of those communities to show up. You don't really.
Agreed.
And once enough of them are out there, then it could tip the perspective of the people who are kind of in a negative, worldview, and maybe we'll just trend better over a period of time. But I don't think it has a clear route. I think that's a tough path.
Hey, Isaac, I'm just right there with you. And I think you nailed it on the head, though. Maybe having a country as big as the United States is just not a good idea.
Well, I mean, we're about the same size as Europe, and they're totally different, countries all over there.
And I've also lived all over the United States, and I got to tell you, like, culturally, the differences in regions of the United States are, they might as well be different countries.
Oh, they feel. I'm from the Midwest originally, and yeah, it feels like a totally different place for sure.
Yeah. So, I don't know, but how does that all impact the paradox of tolerance? I think that implicit in the paradox of tolerance is. Do you know what the? Oh my gosh, I'm going to forget the title. It's the Veil of Ignorance.
Oh, I'm I'm blanking at the moment. Can
No
you add more
worries.
detail?
Yeah, well, I would do it anyway because people are listening. But the veil of ignorance is the idea that if you want to build the best society, then build it in a way that you do not know where you'll wind up.
Yeah.
If you're going to build,
No, that.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add, like, that's the perfect way to do it because not everybody knows, you never know where you're going to end up, even when you're as a child or anything like that. Like,
No, you don't.
let alone, like, pre-existent, but.
Yeah. And the idea is maybe you're going to treat the disadvantaged better if you do not know if you're going to be disadvantaged. That's kind of that's kind of the crux of that whole veil of ignorance piece. And implicit in that assumption is that you're creating a society for everyone, everywhere. And I think that's the same as the paradox of tolerance, is there's this implicit assumption that you're building something for everyone, everywhere, at all times. And
so the veil of ignorance is more of a thought experiment because we never start with that blank slate. We always start with the histories and the negative views and positive views that we have of other people as a society. And however good or bad they are, we always start with those.
And the same is true with the paradox of tolerance. It is a thought experiment. I just think that it's interesting because I've heard it used in a way to shut down communication, to shut down thought.
That's what I think the intolerant people that want to remain with their negative views would use that paradox.
Yeah, and they do.
Like, no, you're intolerant too. Nuh-uh, and then they stick their tongue out and blow raspberries or whatever.
Yep, that's pretty much exactly what happens, which is why I think we should talk about it a little bit and understand it better. Because if you do understand it, then the justifications that you gave, Isaac, right at the beginning. This is the kind of world that I want to live in, right? I want to live in a world where people are kind to each other and this and that and the other thing. And I think that you're going to discriminate justifiably, between the people who get to be a part of that. But I think that implicit in that is the understanding that it's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I find myself confused, and when I'm confused, I bring it up. And I know that gets a lot of people scratching their head because I'm supposed to be a communicator, but what better way to try that out? Try out those ideas and talk to people about it. I don't know. It tickled me and I wanted to represent it. And so that's what I made that video about. But I don't know if I provided any clarity, but hopefully a little bit more context.
I think we're on a very similar page there. I think we both realize that the paradox isn't used in a sincere way most times, and it's usually used as a shield for shittiness. And I think we can all adapt more of a view that V has in trying to build, communities that are kind, caring, and respectful, and hopefully other people pick up on how good that can be and start spreading it around.
They're a smart cookie. I'm still holding out hope that we can do better. But until then, I think that's where I'm left to.
Well, I know it's a hard battle to do better on the national scale, but I think we can do what V was talking about on a local scale across the country in pockets.
I agree.
A lot more successfully than changing the whole country.
I'm right
out front, at least.
Isaac, I'm right there with you. I agree.
All right. Well, I think we're in a similar point here. I think I don't have much more to add.
I think you're absolutely right. Thank you for calling in.
Thanks, Eric.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
That was nice. So somebody posted a comment about the paradox of tolerance. And I just want a veil of ignorance, original position. You're asked to consider which principles you would select for the basic structure of society with no knowledge ahead of time, what position you would end up having. Yep. Okay. I think I got that. Let's move on. I want to talk to Alda in South Carolina. Alda, you're live on Skeptic Generation.
Hello, Eric. It is wonderful to see your beautiful face.
Oh, you liar. How's it going? Thank you for calling.
I do not lie. I appreciate all forms of beauty,
Oh,
including the loud dog that is next door. Come on, man. I just wanted to have a conversation.
You know what? I'll agree with that. I think I'm beautiful in the same way that a loud dog is. What did you want to talk about today?
Now I'm going to migrate away from the loud dog so you don't hear him.
I know the podcast listeners will appreciate that.
I'm going to try to stay away from the actual YouTube channel that is playing for my husband. I was curious what modern philosophy books you had that you would recommend. Because don't get me wrong, I love my Plato, I love my Socrates, I love my Voltaire and all my old white dead men.
Yeah.
But I also love my newer white dead men like Terry Pratchett and Tolkien and, you know, then there's Frederick Douglass. Like,
yeah,
you know, what do you recommend for more modern?
So yeah, by ancient Greek standards, I think Bertrand Russell is pretty modern. So if you haven't checked out Bertrand Russell, definitely do. I think that Daniel Dennett is pretty damn interesting, and is pretty recent. I'm currently working on a book about Aztec philosophy. You know, yeah, right. Absent all of, you know, the kind of ways that we think about it. And I'm not far enough into it to give you any nuanced takes. But once I get there, I'm definitely going to talk about it more. And then generally I carry like the myth of Sisyphus and also the philosophy of mathematics. I've got them on my shelf right now. Just kind of wherever I go, because they're both so dense that, you know, rereading and kind of going over it bit by bit helps me kind of take in the information better. But maybe that's a good starting place. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds fantastic and chunky, and I like it.
Good.
I have never met a book that I'm afraid of unless there's multiple translations and no English, in which case then I get annoyed because I have to go find it from whatever language to English, and I know I'm losing stuff.
Oh, so that's exactly how I feel about the myth of Sisyphus. People go, oh my gosh, well, it's so much. Well, yeah, it was written in French, and not even modern French. Like, of course it's going to be different, because that's not, you're absolutely right. There are other books by people who are still alive who have disappointed me, and so I'm hesitant to recommend them. But when it comes to just material, I think I learned more about kind of the response to the watchmaker argument and about evolutionary biology than I did by The Blind Watchmaker by Dawkins. Not a fan of Dawkins as a person. Not a fan of Dawkins as a person, but The Blind Watchmaker was really, really great in kind of shifting my understanding about evolutionary biology, because that is actually his profession. And so...
Correct.
Yeah. Similarly...
And unfortunately,
Go ahead.
Just because he's an asshole doesn't mean that he didn't get something right once. Right.
And the same is true, regrettably, when it comes to mathematics and Steven Pinker. A universe. Yeah, I know. But a universe from nothing really did help me. And I think that me taking what was beneficial from that book and then not offering that to other people as kind of, hey, this is what helped me, is unfair too. So I'm in a really weird, icky position there. But I can't say that it didn't help me, because it did. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because, like, you know, I like to look back at, I've been rereading lots of ancient myths.
Okay.
And going through the different cultures and going, how can I relate this to things that I'm experiencing today? Because PBS Stories has an awesome YouTube channel where they show ancient myths and they talk about like why we created these myths to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
and then what would we do with them today?
I mean, we are doing that in a way, if you think about like the MCU.
Exactly.
So
I mean, you had, because for my favorite meme from that is you had Steve Rogers, who met multiple gods and is still Christian.
yeah,
Then you have Bruce Banner, atheist, met multiple gods, still an atheist.
that's just dumb. So one of the things that drives me nuts, I love playing D&D and I haven't in a while, but what drove me nuts when I was really involved in like atheist circles is playing with people who are just like, my character is an atheist. I'm like, you're playing in a world where gods are very, very much real, you know? So why would you, I don't know. It's interesting. It is very, very interesting. But yeah, I'm sorry. I have lost the train there.
It's okay. The train derailed. Do you still love the chupacabra as your favorite cryptid? Or has it shifted to Sasquatch or Nessie?
I definitely have to put down the chupacabra. I feel like people stick me with that. But you know what I actually didn't know a lot about was the not deer. And
they're so fantastic and horrifying.
What's really interesting is the actual reason why, those kinds of things happen. And it's not less horrifying, actually. But I think that's my favorite cryptid right now. Anyway.
Excellent. Maybe I'll have to crochet you a knot deer.
No, please don't. Something nice, maybe. Not a knot.
Something nice?
Yeah, not a knot deer.
Okay.
I don't want to be creeped out by that. No thanks. Well, maybe I would. I don't know. I trust you. Alda, I trust you.
I'd give him big googly eyes.
Okay, maybe.
And you could shake him at things when they're not being what they should be.
That's really sweet of you. Alda, thank you for calling in. I don't know if I was useful at all in this conversation, but this was fun.
You were highly useful. My husband has written down all the books, and after this, I will be going to attempt to crochet an angry screaming possum.
Have fun. Thank you.
You too. Bye.
What a sweetheart. All right. Whew, I've got one more caller. This might be a short episode, but that's totally okay. Some of these conversations were really, really useful. I had a lot of fun. Let's move on and talk to Connor in Ohio. Connor, you're live on Skeptic Generation.
How does that feel, Eric?
Oh, okay. For the live viewers, I am so sorry. For the podcast listeners, you might be wondering, why did everything get quiet? And then you said, ooh, because it sounded like somebody sprayed an air horn into the microphone. That was awful. Well, it said Connor wanted to talk about dealing with teachers pushing hardcore religious beliefs in college classrooms, which would have been a really interesting conversation. But that was just terrible. Wow. Okay. So I think we have found a new low here. All right. For the live viewers, I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to cut out that loud screeching sound for the patron-only version of the video. And with that, I do want to say that if you do want to get an ad-free version with the audio cleaned up and things like that taken out, I do put out a Patreon version of the podcast ad-free and a Patreon version of this video ad-free every single episode. On top of that, little extras that I wind up checking it out. If you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. And every little bit helps, especially because since I'm getting things rolling right now, it is like out of pocket and for the most part, and I'm trying my best. But thank you. Thank you for sticking around. It is time to read super chats, you guys. I think we might have one more caller. We'll see. Nope, they're dropped. Okay. So Georgie Georgioff says, love you guys. Thank you, Georgie. The Eagle fan says, welcome back. Thank you so much. It is good to be back. And Melody Kate says, nice to see you back. Happy to be here, you guys. I do have one more person in this call screening room, and I might take them. Let's find out. Nope, they're gone. I think that's going to be it then. Thank you for joining me. This has been fun and weird and all kinds of stuff. I forgot last time to say the tagline for the show, so I'm going to remember it this time. Make sure that you tune in next week because Genetically Modified Skeptic is going to be joining me live, hosting the show with me. So I'll try and put something out for that. But yeah, we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, I'm Eric Murphy, and I'm glad we had this talk.